Our group chose to present the Apple company. It's one of the most innovative companies in the sector. The median target price is 191, with a high estimate of 215 and a low estimate of 145. The median estimate represents 18% increase from the last price of 161, and we gave a buy recommendation. Tim Cook was the company's chief executive officer since August 2011. He was previously the company's chief operating officer since October 2005. Mr. Cook joined the company in 1998 and served as executive vice president, worldwide sales and operations from 2002 to 2005. Elected by the shareholders, the Apple's board of directors comprises two types of representatives: Apple inside directors, who are chosen from within the company, and outside directors selected externally and held independent of Apple. The board's role is to monitor Apple's management team and ensure that shareholders' interests are well served. As one of the first global companies to achieve a net zero carbon impact for corporate emissions, Apple announced plans in 2020 to extend this initiative across its entire supply chain by 2030. In line with this goal, all products sold will be carbon neutral by the end of the decade. This firm's environmental sustainability efforts also include improving the durability and longevity of its products with several programs to reuse Apple's products. In 2021, Apple announced a series of new CSR programs under its 100 million Racial Equity and Justice Initiative. These efforts focus on addressing systemic racism faced by communities of color by promoting educational support. In addition with these initiatives, Apple's social responsibility programs continue to support diversity and professional growth throughout its workforce. Over the last 6 years, the number of employees from underrepresented communities increased by 64%. The number of female employees worldwide also increased by 70%, with an 85% increase in female employee leadership positions. The company sells a variety of products, including the iPhone. The Apple's core product is the iPhone. The popular smartphone has consistently ranked among the top 5 smartphone vendors in the world since 2009. The company's other famous products include the Mac and the iPad. The firm also provides business services like Apple Store or Apple Music. That represents a big part of the company's revenues. America is the biggest market for the firm with 42% of revenues in 2021. Europe is the next on the list with a contribution of 24% of revenues. China represents 19% of revenues and Japan accounts for 8%. The rest of Asia Pacific represents the remaining 7%. Marketing strategy. Apple's innovation approach focuses on making people's lives better with smart and intuitive products. This people-first approach is at the very heart of Apple's innovation culture. The company's success depends largely on availability of highly skilled employees. In regard of cash flow generation, Apple cash flow from operating activities for the 12 months ending December 2021 was $297 billion, which represents an increase of 33%. The company has a very consistent cash flow. Regarding the distribution network, the company sells its products directly to customers, small and mid-sized businesses, and education and government customers through its retail and online stores and its direct sales force. Finally, Apple is number one stock in market capitalization category among related companies. Market capitalization of consumer electronics industry is estimated at about 2.6 trillion. Apple totals roughly 2.65 trillion in market capitalization. The markets for the company's products and services are highly competitive and are characterized by aggressive price competition and resulting downward pressure on gross margins, short product life cycles, evolving industry standards. Many of the company's competitors seek to compete primarily through aggressive pricing and very low cost structure, and by imitating the company's products and infringing on its intellectual property. Principal competitive factors to the firm include price, product features, product and service quality, design innovation, marketing and distribution capability, service and support, and corporation reputation. Apple shows a prevailing real value of 171 per share. The current price of the firm is 159.96, thus the firm appears to be undervalued. Apple shares have outperformed the S&P 500 in the past year, generating a 12-month total return of 39.7%.
Now I will introduce you to the next part. In Europe, Apple recorded a 25% increase in the last quarter of 2021, according to Counterpoint, largely dominating the sector, with an average growth of 8% for all brands. The iPhone recorded its highest market share ever in Europe. The year started with a bang for Apple with the release of its first 5G smartphone, which took no less than 35% of part of the market. In February, Samsung regained the lead with its S21 before being affected by the closure of factories in Vietnam. Xiaomi took advantage of the shortage to take the lead for the first time before suffering from the lack of components and giving the lead back to Samsung, which made very good sales with its A series and the growing success of its Z series. With the launch of the iPhone 13, Apple finally regained the lead in November 2021 before recording its largest market in Europe in December 2021. Apple continues to rule the premium segment with over 15% market share in all major smartphone markets in Q2 2021. Brands like OnePlus, Xiaomi, and Oppo have captured a big share of the market too, but behind all this, there's a big contribution of Huawei's controversy that eventually led to its deadline. Huawei used to have a 17% market share in the second quarter of 2020 and now stands at 6% globally. This drop provides enough room for Apple and Samsung to expand in their market segments. While Apple is resilient and doing well in component sourcing, Samsung has been hit hard by production disruptions in Vietnam due to the COVID. However, the aggressively priced Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 3 and Z Flip 3 are helping Samsung quickly recoup the edge lost in the past few months. Well, Apple wasn't the only brand to benefit from the gap that Huawei left in the premium segment. Brands like Xiaomi and Oppo have had their fair share of gains too. Both the brands are investing and marketing heavily in the premium segment in Europe and China. In fact, Xiaomi has managed to occupy the third spot in multiple markets, with a major chunk in Europe. As for OnePlus, it's got a big room after LG's exit from the smartphone market and has clinched the third spot in North America. Apple is still a hardware company first and foremost, and its revenue comes greatly from the hardware products iPhone and iPad. What is even more impressive is that as the iOS market has grown, the business has shifted from music sales to many application sales. As we can see from the chart, cell phone sales account for a large portion of total revenue. Seeing Huawei at the top of the ranking is still a little surprise, considering Huawei's difficulties with the US government. The Chinese manufacturer gets away with it thanks to its domination and its native land, where it gets almost half of the smartphone sales, a more than remarkable result. Similar finding from Samsung, with less difficulties with 16% of market shares in Southern Korea. Apple handicapped by its price. For its part, the Apple iPhone is doing quite well around the world, especially in the US, where it has 17% of market share. It should be noted that Apple's leg over Samsung and Huawei is partly due to its high price. For example, in India, 19% of cell phone cost less than $1,300, whereas an iPhone costs a minimum of $900. Huawei is coming out with new products, while Apple is just making updates to its existing iPhone. They also have a branding strategy in China which got a boost from the trade war. A Huawei smartphone is a Tier 1, made in China, in your fast American smartphone. This helps them gain additional market share in a generally saturated Chinese market. Apple iPhone ships decline in China for the second consequence quarter. It is increasingly difficult for Apple to expand in China now, as new China brands including Xiaomi keep coming at them. All of this is troubling for both Google and iOS, as Huawei has yet to roll out its own operating system. When it does, things will change quickly in the entire Asian smartphone market, while Apple seems taking the biggest hit.
The return on equity has a constant improvement from 2012 to 2019 and an impressive growth from 2019 to 2021. That means that Apple management team has handled a better use of shareholders' capital and in the same way provide a better return to its investors. In 2021, total current assets are about 134 and total current liabilities are up to 124 million. The current ratio of Apple is 1.10 in 2021. That means that for every $1 in current liabilities, the company must have 1.10 in current assets. Apple have not a lot more current assets than its current liabilities, and its ratio is below the average market current ratio. In this section, we can start with the analysis of the company performance. The company brought in 2021 a total asset of $365 million through sales, and it cost approximately $212 million to achieve those sales, for a gross profit margin of $106 $52 million. Cost of sales decreased in 2021 compared to 2020. Gross margin percentage was 40.78% in 2021 compared to 38.24% in 2020. We have seen a constant growth tendency since 2017 due to primarily a different product and services mix, improved leverage, and a strength in foreign currency relative to the US dollar. That means that after deducting cost of gross profit, profit left is increasing year over year. Apple grew its revenue from its operational activities and showed a decrease in operating expense of $43 million in 2020 compared to $44 million in 2019, and an increase in operating income of $108 million in 2020, growing 29.78% from 2020. Contractingly, the technology award and equipment sector has an operating income of 29.30% from 2020. 2020 net income is consequently higher than 2020, with a 25.18% growth and obviously an increasing tendency since 2017. In this part, we're going to talk about the investment risk of Apple. The company risk is distributed into 6 sections. 21% of the risk is from the ability to sell of the company. They remain competitive and stimulate customer demand. The company must successfully manage frequent introduction and transaction of products and services. 80% concern legal and regulatory issues. The company is subject to complex and changing law and regulation worldwide, which expose the company to potential liabilities, increased costs, and other adverse effects on the company business. Examples are antitrust, privacy, data security and data localization, or consumer protection. Furthermore, the company business is subject to a variety of US and international law, rules and policies, and other obligations regarding data protection. 80% of the risk is from production potential issues. The COVID-19 pandemic and the measures taken by many countries have affected the company. 80% of the risk is macroeconomic and political issues. The company operations and performance depend significantly on global and regional economic conditions. The company business can be impacted by political events, trades, and other international disputes, war, terrorism, natural disaster, and other business interruption. 80% is from finance and corporate issues. The company financial performance is subject to risk associated with change in the value of the US dollar relative to local currencies. The company is exposed to credit risks and fluctuations in the value of the investment portfolio. Finally, 11% represent tech and innovation. The company relies on access to third-party intellectual property, which may be not available to the company on commercial reasonable terms or at all. The company's future performance depends in part on the support of the third-party software developers. Thank you for your attention.